I'm Jacob Elordi. I play the character Chris Gregory, and for me, Chris is this. He's a kid, so he's very similar to myself in age and stuff, and he's just this ball of energy and fun and light. He's just this guy that's like completely alive. Everything he does is uncompromised and unreviewed. It just comes out of his mouth. It just comes out and it happens because he's feeling it, and it just comes from like a true kindness and a true happiness. I think it was the happiness of him that made me want to really dig in and bring it out. This movie, I guess, is for me. It's about human connection and kind of the connection that all of us have that like isn't super apparent when we walk past each other on the street. So how two people from two completely contrasting parts of life, how their stories can come together and how you can kind of like coexist. Just about people. It's about how you never know how your life can affect somebody else's life, I suppose. It's a true story and it is real, and it's the story that gives those other stories similar to it weight that are fiction. Like it gives them, it feels like the original true story of something, I guess. It was kind of like, it was reading it and I was like, this is too good to be true. And then it was true. So it was kind of like this feeling, this like humbling kind of feeling, I suppose. Or it's super beautiful, and like it's really just this story about people kind of coming together in these strange circumstances that you think people would not come together in, and it kind of shows what life is and how it works and how you never really know what's around the corner and what's going to happen. So yeah, I love it. I love it. Chris is a real human being. Luckily, we sort of got away from that idea and kind of captured his essence more than like the physical thing that he was. I was super nervous, really nervous, because you're playing somebody's son, you're playing somebody's child, their baby, and that's you're never going to be them, so that's like a little bit daunting. Because it's about people and it's about connecting with people and what you can give to other people, and I kind of feel like we're a little bit disassociative and we're a little bit strung out and kind of caught up in our own heads, especially nowadays. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing and what's good for me and what's gonna get me this, and I think it is really about people thinking about other people. It's such a cliche. It is exactly. I never looked forward to it, and I never wanted to. And it's fleeting as well. So I'm not even going to call it fame. I'm not going to endow it with that. It's just like a temporary moment of like people knowing who you are. It's difficult and it's different because I'm from a very like humble place in Brisbane. Like I'm very like family oriented and stuff like that. So. It's different. I'm glad people like it, but it's definitely it's a thing at the moment that I'm trying to work out where I stand in it all. It's about human connection and how sort of how random it can be, and how a situation that you never think would happen can and will happen, and it can be like it can be like the purpose of you being here on this earth and being alive. I think that's what it's about. It's about people coming together and kindness.
The relationship between Chris and Sam is, it starts out very kind of like timid and sweet and a love that you feel like you've seen before in a way, but then the way that it evolves and the way that it happens makes you realize how important it is to be present with the person that you love and to tell them that you love them and to not take a moment for granted. The film is about two different love stories. I play Sam, Chris's girlfriend, and you kind of follow our journey and our love story while also following the other two's love story and how they connect. And what makes this story kind of so different is that as you're watching, you're seeing these two separate entities and these two separate loves happening and blossoming, but they do connect in a way that you wouldn't expect. And I think that's what makes it so cool, because you watch it and you're like, oh, this is cute, this is a love story, this is beautiful, and then things start to happen and you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought that was going to go down. I think with social media and cell phones and all these things, people are having a harder time connecting and really connecting and like sitting down and talking to someone. And I think it's so easy for us to forget what it feels like to be present with somebody else. And I think that that's why a story like this is so important, because there are certain things that can happen in your life, and it would be unfortunate if only those circumstances were the things that made you really step back and be like, oh, like appreciate your life and that person. And I think that it's, you know, that's why a story like this is important. It was great, you know, we chem-read together before I was cast, and already there was like funny little banter and stuff that happened. And yeah, we got really close and became really good friends, and we've had a ton of fun together. And you know, when you work so intimately with someone, it's nice to have somebody that you can actually connect with, you know, as people, as opposed to just, you know, acting. So that was a really wonderful thing that happened. I think it's a perfect time for a movie like this because there's so much heartbreak and sadness and turmoil in the world right now. And I think a story about love and about inspiration and hope is something that we need. I don't think there's enough of that on TV and just in the world in general. And I think telling stories of love is the only way to help mend, you know, everything that's happening. For one, it's a really beautiful love story, and who doesn't love love stories? And you know, it's hopeful. It's different because it's not just about love. It's about the way that these four different people, these two different couples connect in two completely different times in their lives, and in a way that nobody would expect. And I think it'll keep people on their toes, which is really cool. And yeah,
two parallel love stories that exist in the story, and the way the story is told, you kind of get a sense that it's one love story, and that our sense of identity isn't maybe quite what we think it is, and maybe there's some sort of magic that we don't understand that we can only recognize when we're kind of open to what life brings to us, however challenging. It's kind of how I thought she would be, you know. Different even to how she is on paper in the script, because there's something kind of old school in a way about the story, and in a way about their story. But when you meet her within that context, she has a very sort of strong, interesting spirit, and you can see where I guess a lot of the strength came from in that relationship to handle the challenges that were presented to them. Why is it a perfect time? I think audiences in general are just starved for content that has any kind of resonance or any kind of meaning. You know, everything seems to be made, either it's like a huge action thing or it's something very cynical. And people, I think, look to stories to kind of contextualize their own lives and reframe their own perspectives on the challenges that they're, you know, involved in. And stories can help us with that. Stories can help us see things. So inspiring stories are all, you know, especially now, I think we need them. She's just had a very unique and interesting life. I mean, she started as an air hostess and ended up in this big kind of family context. And that must have been just like a huge perspective shift. And in the middle of that, there's this sort of, you know, the whole ground was shaking all the time because there's this threat that it might all end. And she's just like a rock, like an incredible emotional rock. I think we should see movies like this because they, you know, there is a kind of integrity and a heroism that all of the characters kind of embody, and I think it's wonderful to see that. You know, we don't expect much from others anymore, and it's nice to see people that like we can aspire to be like. I think just the themes and the issues are so kind of compelling that you want to sort of experience it, you know, through your own psyche. But having met the real Leslie, she was definitely an inspirational character, a really interesting woman, and I've had a little bit of a dialogue with her since meeting. And I don't think anyone sort of wanted us to feel that kind of pressure, and I don't really. So it's just been nice to have the real conversation and to see that these characters are not just these fairy tale characters that appear in the story, but they're real people, and this is really how they live and how they see the world. Character Leslie is a really interesting woman, She's very adventurous, she's very spontaneous, and we get to see her age from her sort of mid-20s, late 20s, I should say, to her 60s, 70s, not quite sure, but the story transgresses time, and so you see these characters change, and you see the essence of who they are kind of continue to shine through. You see the strength of a woman that's supporting her husband through something so difficult, and I think she really is an anchor to life and keeps him alive through the story.
My name is Adan Canto. I play the character Jorge Bolivar in Two Hearts. The first time I read the script, I was very moved by the whole story. It's certainly an inspirational film. I guess what drove me to it was exactly that, you know, the hardships that people go through, and the kind of character that you have to, I guess, develop within yourself to get past it, and especially when you find love, and how that can affect your life and keep pushing you, you know, in spite of whatever it is that you're facing. It touches on humanity, on you know, caring for, I guess, your kinsmen, your people around you, your family, your friends, and I love that. You know, I think it's you know, you don't have to be a serial killer or you know, mafia drug lord, whatever. I guess the challenge here is to try to tap into reality and still make it or convey that sense of how it's extraordinary to you, you know, in that moment or that character, that storyline, because it is extraordinary, you know, like, especially this character that I'm playing right now. It's unbelievably fascinating, hopeful, but one of the things I admire about the real individual I'm playing is his courage. In Spanish, courage means something else. It's like a relentless will to succeed and to make things work, you know, to make things great. And that's one of the things that really motivated me about this movie. It's a very inspirational film. The kind of things that people can just grow from. That people can discover aspects of themselves about. You know, it's an interesting mirror, I guess, to everyday life and how you can make it great. So that's certainly what I've been learning and admiring in the film. One of the things that really inspired me about my character Jorge Bolivar was his relentlessness to live life fully, and his strong, solid will, and his excitement about life, and everything that comes with that excitement, and you know, the way his life changed once he met Leslie, and the way he went about that as well. It was pretty fascinating, also considering the fact that this is a true story. So that was very inspiring. This film is a very inspirational film and motivating film. I guess it's a way to ground yourself again and sort of remember, you know, there are immense, massive elements of life, you know, connecting, compassion, humanity, things like that. I think in the sort of fast-paced life we live today, where we're just moving fast and, you know, browsing through things and just getting a little slurp of everything. It's kind of, I think it's really important to slow down and really take things in. You know, it's a lot more than just a 5-second moment. The love story in this movie is unique in that it transcends, I guess, space and time, if you will. You know, it takes place in different generations, different parts of the world entirely. You don't see how they're gonna connect, and all of a sudden, in the end, it's a total curveball, and it's real. This is a true story that we're telling. So that's fascinating.
Where is the buzz?
Oh,
Where is the buzz? You said
We used to be a
was
singer.
mine,
Oh,
mine.
where is the buzz?
Ooh.